On the distant planet of Zerathia, the sun rose over a city of shining towers and wide streets filled with flowing energy streams. The alien civilization there was proud and strong. They valued tradition above all else. And at the heart of it all, in the tallest palace of the capital city, lived Princess Liara, the most famous figure in the galaxy. Liara was beautiful and intelligent. Her skin shimmered slightly in the sunlight, and her eyes glowed with a calm, steady light. Every movement she made was graceful. Every word she spoke precise. But it was her mind that set her apart. She was stubborn, clever, and independent. Unlike other members of her family, Liara refused to follow every custom blindly. Her greatest rebellion, the one that alarmed the Alien Council more than anything else, was her refusal to marry. Over the years, she had been approached by hundreds of suitors from powerful alien worlds. They offered riches, armies, and promises of eternal influence. Every time, Liara had said no. The Council could not understand her choices. For them, marriage was not about love, it was about duty, strategy, and power. But Liara did not care. "This is unacceptable," Counselor Thalen said one morning, pacing in the sunlit chamber. His long robes brushed against the polished floor. "A princess cannot reject the strongest lords of the galaxy. We must act, or the alliances will crumble." Liara sat quietly, listening as always. She did not rise to meet his eyes. "I have no interest in alliances built on fear or money," she said softly. "I will marry only if I choose to." Counselor Thalen's face reddened. "You are a princess, Liara. Your duty is to the people of Zerathia, not to your whims. You will bring dishonor to the palace." Liara raised her head, her glowing eyes steady. "I bring honor by being honest, not by pretending to care for someone I do not respect." The council erupted in murmurs. Some were angry, some confused. They had never seen anyone so firm in centuries. The Princess of Zerathia, a woman who could have had any lord in the galaxy, refused them all. But far away, in a small human vessel traveling through the stars, a man named Ethan was on a mission that would unknowingly change everything. Ethan was not rich, not famous, and certainly not from a powerful alien family. He was a human, curious, brave, and surprisingly adaptable. His task was simple: observe alien cultures, report back, and learn from their technology. But humans, as it often happened, had a way of doing the impossible in the most ordinary way. Ethan had been traveling for weeks in the sleek ship Endeavor, passing through colorful nebulas and asteroid fields. He liked to look at the stars, think about the worlds they represented, and imagine the beings that lived there. When his ship finally entered Zerathian space, he noticed the city's towers from afar. They gleamed like rivers of glass and metal under the rising sun. It was magnificent. "Looks like I'm not in Kansas anymore," Ethan muttered to himself, smiling. He knew he had to meet the leaders soon. Little did he know, his life and the life of the unyielding princess were about to collide. Back at the palace, Liara walked through the corridors. Servants bowed as she passed, and guards nodded respectfully. She did not hurry, but her steps were purposeful. Today there was news. A human ambassador was arriving at the palace. She had read the reports. Humans were said to be curious, unpredictable, and unlike any other alien species. Many saw them as weak, yet others whispered about their strange courage. Liara had no interest in humans. She had met aliens from every corner of the galaxy, and humans seemed simple. But she could not ignore the reports entirely. She decided she would meet this human, just to satisfy her curiosity. When Ethan's ship docked, the palace erupted in activity. Aliens of every rank hurried through the halls to prepare. He stepped out, tall and unassuming, his simple human clothes contrasting with the ornate uniforms of the alien guards. He smiled politely at the reception team. "Welcome, Ambassador," one of the attendants said. "Princess Liara will see you shortly." Ethan nodded. "Thank you. I'm honored." He was led through vast halls past enormous murals depicting centuries of Zerathian history. Liara watched from above, observing quietly from her balcony. He moved with a calm confidence, treating everyone with respect but no fear. That alone impressed her. Most beings bowed deeply, fawned, or tried to impress her. He did not. The first meeting was brief. Liara stepped into the room, her presence commanding attention. Ethan bowed politely, though not too low. "Princess Liara," he said, "I am honored to meet you." Liara raised an eyebrow. She expected flattery, bowing, and maybe gifts. Instead, this human seemed genuine. There was no hint of fear, no attempt to manipulate her. Before she could reply, the palace alarm sounded. Red lights flashed. A minor malfunction in the energy conduits had caused a small fire near the lower halls. Guards rushed toward the flames, but Liara was too close. She could have been in danger. Without thinking, Ethan acted. He ran forward, grabbing a device that helped suppress the fire. Within moments, he had controlled it, saving several palace attendants and keeping Liara safe. The princess stared at him, astonished. No alien lord had ever acted like this, not out of fear, not for appearances, not for duty. They all expected rewards, titles, or influence. But this human acted because it was the right thing to do. You saved them, she said, her voice low, almost unsure. Ethan shrugged, brushing soot from his clothes. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. It seemed simple. Liara blinked. Simple? No one had ever described bravery that way. The council, arriving moments later, was furious. Ambassador, Counselor Thalen shouted. This is unacceptable. How dare you interfere? Ethan turned politely. I did what needed to be done, sir. No one was hurt, and that is all that matters. Liara's eyes softened slightly. Something about this human, his calm honesty and his courage, sparked a feeling she had never felt before. Curiosity, intrigue, perhaps even admiration. That evening she could not sleep. She walked through the palace gardens thinking about the day. Ethan's actions replayed in her mind. He had risked nothing extraordinary by alien standards, yet by human standards he had acted with an extraordinary heart. And the thought made her chest tighten in a way she did not understand. By the time dawn approached, Liara had made a small decision. She would observe him, speak with him, and see who he really was. No princess in history had allowed a human to influence her thoughts so quickly. She found that thought thrilling and dangerous. Meanwhile, Ethan was also awake, examining maps of Zarathia and thinking about his first encounter with the princess. He could not help but notice her intelligence, her strength, and the quiet confidence that came naturally to her. But he had a mission, and humans were not known for rushing into politics or trouble, yet something about Liara made him feel that this mission would be unlike any other. For the first time, across the galaxy, two worlds were about to collide, not with war, but with curiosity, courage, and something that neither of them had expected, the start of a connection that could change everything. As the first rays of sunlight touched the palace spires, Liara smiled faintly to herself. She had no idea that this human would challenge not only her ideas of duty and honor, but also her heart, and she did not know that her unyielding nature might soon face the most difficult decision of her life. The unyielding princess, who had refused every offer of marriage, was about to meet the human man who could make her say yes without thinking. The morning on Zarathia was bright and calm, though beneath the serenity tension buzzed like a hidden current. In the palace, preparations were underway for the formal introduction of Ethan, the human ambassador. The council had demanded that everything be perfect. Every light, every guard, every flower arrangement had to display the wealth and strength of Zarathia. Liara walked through the long corridors of the palace, her thoughts turning again to the human. She could not explain why, but a sense of curiosity lingered. No alien had ever made her feel this way, not fear, not awe, not even admiration. Something about Ethan was different. Something about him was real. When Ethan entered the main hall, he took a deep breath. The hall was enormous, filled with towering columns carved with glowing runes. The alien council waited at the far end, their eyes sharp, judging every move. Liara stood among them, her tall frame and glowing eyes commanding attention. Yet for a moment, Ethan's gaze found hers. She did not look away. Princess Liara, Ethan said, bowing politely but not too low. I am honored to meet you. Liara raised an eyebrow. She expected a long speech, flattery, or perhaps hesitation. Instead, this human spoke plainly. His voice carried no fear, no attempt to impress. It was honest and calm. I am Liara, she replied, her voice steady. Welcome to Zarathia. Before the council could interrupt, a loud alarm echoed through the palace. Red lights flashed along the walls. The energy conduits in one wing had overloaded, sparking small fires and sending smoke into the corridors. Panic rippled through the attendants. Liara stiffened. She was trained to handle crises, but she could not do it all alone. Ethan, however, reacted instinctively. Stay back, he shouted, grabbing a nearby fire suppression device. He dashed toward the flames, moving faster than any alien guard could. Liara watched, her heart beating faster. The human was not trying to impress anyone. He was acting because he knew it was the right thing to do. The fire hissed and spat sparks, but Ethan's quick thinking contained it within moments. Guards followed his instructions, astonished by his courage and clarity under pressure. "You," Liara said, her voice trembling slightly. "You saved them." Ethan brushed soot from his clothes, smiling faintly. "I just didn't want anyone to get hurt. That's all." Liara's eyes softened. "That's all?" No alien suitor had ever acted like this without expecting something in return. For the first time, she felt a sense of admiration she could not ignore. The council, however, was furious. Counselor Thalen's face was red with anger. "Ambassador! How dare you interfere without authorization? This is not your place." Ethan turned to the council, bowing politely. "I acted because it was the right thing to do. No one was harmed. That is all that matters." Liara felt an unusual warmth inside her chest. Here was a being who had no reason to be brave, yet he acted anyway. Here was someone who did not bow to power or tradition, but chose honesty and courage. After the chaos subsided, Liara requested a private audience with Ethan. She wanted to understand him better, to see why he was so different. The council protested, but she ignored them. She had never defied them so openly, yet she felt it was necessary. Ethan entered her private chamber, still calm and unassuming. The room was large and elegant, filled with glowing crystals that reflected light across the polished floors. Liara sat on a raised platform, observing him carefully. "You are unlike any alien I have ever met," she said. "Most beings bow and flatter. You do not." Ethan smiled a little awkwardly. "I respect people for who they are, not for their power or rank. That is how we humans do things." Liara tilted her head. "You speak plainly. No hidden meanings, no lies. Why?" "Because lying or pretending wastes time," he said simply. "And time is better spent doing what matters." Liara studied him, her curiosity growing. There was honesty in his words, and in that honesty she felt a strange pull, something she had never felt with any alien. For the next few hours they walked through the palace gardens. Ethan asked questions about the plants, the history of Zarathia, and the palace's design. Liara answered, watching his genuine interest in everything. He noticed small details, small acts of care, and often found joy in simple things. "You notice everything," she said at one point. "Most people don't even look at the world around them." Ethan shrugged. "We humans like to notice. Life is short and we try to make it meaningful. Isn't that worth noticing?" Liara could not help but smile faintly. She had spent her life surrounded by rules, power, and expectation. And yet here was someone who could see meaning in simple things, someone who reminded her of what she had almost forgotten: joy. Later they stumbled upon an old library hidden behind the palace walls. It was filled with ancient texts, glowing scripts, and holographic maps. Liara had never had much interest in exploring it, but with Ethan it felt exciting. "This is incredible," Ethan said, running his hand along the glowing books. "So much history. And it's all still here, untouched." Liara nodded. "Most people don't care about the past. They only care about power and status. But the past teaches us who we are and who we could become." They spent hours exploring the library, discussing ideas, sharing knowledge, and even laughing at minor mistakes in translation. Liara found herself enjoying his company more than she expected. The princess who had once rejected every suitor was beginning to see something different in this human: honesty, courage, and a perspective that made her question her own world. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Liara and Ethan returned to the palace courtyard. Guards watched them, puzzled by their relaxed manner. The council was unsure how to respond. But Liara did not care. For the first time she felt the freedom to make her own choice, to explore feelings she had long ignored. "Ethan," she said softly, "you are unlike anyone I have ever met. Not because of strength or skill, but because you are human, simple, honest, brave. It is refreshing." Ethan smiled, a little shy. "I'm glad you feel that way. I didn't come here to impress anyone, just to learn. But I must admit I have learned a lot from you as well." Liara's heart beat faster, a strange feeling of warmth spreading through her chest. She did not fully understand it, but she knew one thing. She wanted to see more of this human. She wanted to know how he thought, how he acted, and what made him so different from anyone else she had ever met. That night, Liara could not sleep. She walked the balcony, looking at the city lights below. Thoughts of Ethan lingered in her mind. His bravery, his honesty, and his curiosity had left a mark on her, one she could not ignore. Somewhere in the palace, Ethan also stared at the stars. He thought about Liara's intelligence, her confidence, and her beauty, but also about the kindness and courage he had seen in her actions. He felt a strange connection, one he had never felt before. Two worlds, two beings from different corners of the galaxy, were starting to understand each other. They were learning slowly that bravery was not just about armies or technology. It was about heart, honesty, and the willingness to act when it mattered. And so, as the night deepened, both Liara and Ethan drifted into a restless sleep. Each was thinking about the other, each feeling something new, something powerful, something that neither expected, but both were curious to explore. The unyielding princess, who had refused to marry countless suitors, and the brave human, who had acted without thought for reward or fear, were beginning a connection that could change their worlds forever. The next morning the sun rose over Zarathia, bathing the palace in golden light. For Princess Liara, the day began like any other, but she felt a strange excitement. Thoughts of Ethan lingered in her mind. The human ambassador had already challenged her expectations, and she found herself curious to see him again. Ethan, meanwhile, had spent the night reviewing his notes and maps of the planet. He was cautious, knowing the council would watch him closely, yet he could not shake the memory of Liara's gaze and the quiet confidence she displayed. There was something about her, not just her intelligence, but her strength and honesty, that made him respect her deeply. That morning, Liara requested a private tour of the city with Ethan. The council grumbled, unsure why the princess wanted to spend time with a human instead of attending political meetings, but Liara ignored them. She walked through the palace halls with calm determination, a faint smile playing on her lips. Ethan met her in the courtyard, where sunlight reflected off the crystal fountains. "Good morning, princess," he said politely. "Good morning, ambassador," Liara replied. "Today you will see Zarathia beyond the palace. I want you to understand my world." They started their tour through the bustling city streets. Aliens of many shapes and sizes moved around them, trading goods, repairing machines, or simply walking about. Liara explained the traditions of her people, their strict hierarchy, and the importance of honor and duty. Ethan listened carefully, asking questions at every opportunity. "Do you enjoy it here?" he asked at one point, looking at the busy market. Liara paused. "I do not always enjoy it," she admitted. "There are expectations, rules, and pressures that weigh heavily. But I respect my people and I take my duty seriously." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "It must be difficult to balance who you are with what others expect of you." Liara glanced at him, surprised by his insight. "It is, but most people don't understand. They see me as stubborn, rebellious, or foolish. They do not see the reason behind my choices." "Sometimes," Ethan said softly, "the right choices are not the easiest ones, and sometimes you have to stand alone to do what you believe is right." Liara felt a quiet admiration for him. He was not just brave in action. He was brave in thought. Humans had a way of speaking simply, yet their words carried depth. She had never met anyone who could listen so carefully and respond so wisely. As they walked further, they reached the outskirts of the city, where an abandoned training ground lay. It had once been used for teaching young aliens how to defend themselves and practice their skills. Now it was overgrown but still functional. "Would you like to see something interesting?" Liara asked. "I used to train here when I was younger." Ethan's eyes lit up. "I would love to." Liara led him to the central area. With a swift motion, she demonstrated her skills, moving with precision and agility. Ethan watched closely, impressed by her strength and control. Then he asked politely, "Could I try?" Liara raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure? Humans are not known for agility." "I am willing to learn," Ethan replied with a confident smile. Under her guidance, Ethan attempted basic movements. He stumbled, laughed, and tried again. Liara found herself smiling at his determination. No human had ever dared to challenge her in this way, yet he persisted, not to show off, but simply to understand. Hours passed quickly. They practiced, exchanged stories, and learned from each other. Liara discovered that Ethan had a sharp mind and a patient heart. He asked questions about alien history, culture, and technology, but he never judged or mocked. Instead, he listened and tried to understand. Most visitors, Liara said, only care about what they can take from Zerathia. They do not seek to understand it. Ethan shook his head. I came here to learn, to see how others live and perhaps to find ways we can help each other. Liara's respect for him deepened. Here was a human who did not act out of pride, fear, or duty, but out of curiosity and compassion. And she realized something she had not admitted even to herself. She enjoyed his company. Later, as they rested by a small stream that ran near the training ground, Liara asked, Tell me, Ethan, what is it about humans that makes you different from others? Ethan thought for a moment. I suppose we are curious, persistent, and sometimes foolishly brave. We take risks not always for reward, but because it feels right. We care about people and we act even when it is difficult. Liara looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the water. I admire that. Most beings do not act for the sake of what is right. They act for power, for duty, for fear. You act for yourself, but also for others. Ethan smiled a little shyly. I think everyone has the ability to do that, Princess. Some just forget. Liara's heart stirred. She had spent her life obeying rules and avoiding personal attachments, yet here was someone who reminded her of freedom, honesty, and courage. She wanted to understand him, to see how his mind worked and to learn from his perspective. Their time together was interrupted when a small incident occurred. A young Zerathian child had wandered near a market stall about to step into danger. Ethan acted instantly, pulling the child out of harm's way. Liara was amazed. He did not hesitate. He did not think about recognition or reward. He acted purely out of instinct and care. You are remarkable, Liara said quietly. Ethan shrugged. I just do what I hope is right. The day continued with small adventures, exploring hidden passages in the palace, discovering forgotten artifacts, and even helping to solve minor problems for the city. Every action Ethan took impressed Liara more. She realized that humans were not just clever. They were capable of thinking differently, acting boldly, and inspiring those around them. By evening, the city lights reflected in the sky, creating a shimmering tapestry of colors. Liara and Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the bustling streets. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Ethan, Liara said softly, you make me see things differently. I feel alive when I am with you. I have never felt this way before. Ethan looked at her, surprised. I feel the same. You are unlike anyone I have ever met. You are strong, smart, and brave, but also kind and curious, and I am glad to know you. Liara smiled faintly, her heart beating faster. She realized that the princess who had once refused every suitor might be changing. She did not fully understand why, but she felt drawn to this human, not for duty, not for politics, not for reward, but because he was himself, honest and brave. That night, as the palace slept, Liara found herself thinking of Ethan over and over. She wondered how someone so ordinary by alien standards could be so extraordinary to her. She wondered what it would mean if she allowed herself to care. Ethan, in his cabin aboard the Endeavour, also stared at the stars. He thought about Liara's intelligence, her courage, and her quiet strength. He had met many leaders and rulers, but she was different. She inspired him to be better, to think beyond his mission, and to act with courage and care. Across the galaxy, two hearts and minds were beginning to connect. They came from worlds apart, yet they found understanding, admiration, and curiosity in each other. And though neither fully realized it yet, something was growing, a bond that could change their lives, and perhaps the course of their worlds. The unyielding princess who had refused every offer of marriage, and the brave human who acted with honesty and courage, were forming a connection built on trust, respect, and admiration. Their worlds had begun to collide in a way that neither expected, but both were eager to explore. The following days were quiet on Zerathia, but the calm was only a surface. Princess Liara and Ethan had grown closer, their bond strengthening with every shared experience. They explored the palace, practiced skills, and discovered hidden areas few had ever seen. Yet the council watched carefully, growing uneasy with each passing day. Liara noticed the tension. Some counselors whispered in corridors, sending suspicious glances toward the human ambassador. For the first time, she felt the weight of political danger. The council had tolerated her defiance for years, but allowing a human to influence her so directly was a risk they might not accept. Ethan, oblivious to some of the political intricacies, focused on learning about Zarathian technology and culture. He admired the ingenuity of the alien civilization, but noticed the rigid hierarchy and strict expectations placed on its people, especially the princess. One afternoon, while exploring an old armory hidden beneath the palace, they discovered strange symbols etched into the walls. The room was filled with ancient weapons and defensive tools, many long forgotten. "This place is incredible," Ethan said, examining a glowing device. "It's like a treasure of history." Liara nodded. "Few ever enter here. My ancestors used these weapons in times of great danger. They trusted the royal family to guard them." Ethan carefully handled one of the devices, marveling at its design. "Humans could learn a lot from this technology," he said, thinking about innovations that might help both their worlds. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the palace above. Alarms blared. Liara's eyes widened. "Something is wrong," she shouted. They rushed to the upper levels and found chaos. A group of masked intruders had infiltrated the palace. They were armed, moving quickly, and their goal was clear: to kidnap the princess and force her into a marriage arranged by a rival faction. Ethan did not hesitate. "Stay close to me," he shouted, grabbing Liara's hand. He had learned quickly about the palace layout and used his knowledge to navigate hidden corridors, leading them away from the immediate danger. Liara followed him, her heart racing. She had faced many challenges, but this was different. She relied not on her guards, but on a human who had no weapons, no power, and no formal authority. And yet he moved with courage and confidence, guiding her with calm precision. They reached a small balcony overlooking the city. Below, the intruders searched for them, unaware of their location. Ethan scanned the surroundings. "We need a plan," he said. "The main exit is too dangerous." "There might be another way." Liara nodded, trusting him. Together, they discovered a hidden passage used long ago by palace workers. It led through narrow tunnels beneath the palace, winding and dark. The human's quick thinking and ability to stay calm under pressure impressed Liara even more. As they moved, Ethan whispered, "Do you trust me?" Liara glanced at him. "Completely." The tunnels eventually opened to a secluded garden outside the palace walls. They could see the city lights in the distance, but the danger was not over. The intruders would soon discover their escape. Ethan spotted a small hovercraft, a forgotten vehicle left in the garden. "We can use that to get away," he said. Liara quickly helped him start it. The craft hummed to life, lifting off the ground smoothly. From the distance, the intruders realized the princess was gone. Anger and frustration flashed across their masked faces. One shouted, "They cannot escape Zarathia's reach." Ethan and Liara moved quickly, weaving through the city streets. Liara held tightly to the human's arm, her trust in him complete. She had never felt such confidence in anyone, not in guards, counselors, or suitors. But with Ethan, she felt safe, respected, and understood. Finally, they reached a safe location outside the city. Ethan powered down the hovercraft and they sat together, catching their breath. "You acted so calmly," Liara said, her voice filled with awe. "I have never seen anyone think so clearly in such danger." Ethan shrugged, a small smile on his face. "I just did what I could. I didn't want anyone to get hurt, especially you." Liara's heart skipped a beat. She realized that admiration for his courage had grown into something deeper: trust, affection, and maybe even the beginnings of love. Over the next few hours, they discussed how to protect the palace and its people from future attacks. Ethan suggested using some of the old defense systems they had seen in the armory, combining them with Zarathian technology to create safe barriers. Liara contributed her knowledge of the palace layout, planning ways to improve security. Their teamwork was seamless. The princess and the human worked side by side, each learning from the other, each respecting the other's skills. Liara felt a surge of pride, not for herself alone, but for the human who had earned her trust through bravery and intelligence. As the evening approached, they returned to the palace, careful to avoid the intruders who had been captured or driven off by palace guards. The council met them immediately, concern etched on every face. "Princess Liara, Ambassador Ethan, are you unharmed?" Councillor Thalen asked, voice shaking with relief and anger. Liara stepped forward. "We are unharmed. The intruders have been dealt with." Ethan nodded politely. "The situation is under control." I recommend reinforcing certain areas and using the old defensive systems. The palace will be much safer." The council looked at him with mixed feelings. They were impressed by his quick thinking, but uneasy that a human had played such a key role in protecting the princess. Liara, however, ignored their murmurs. She turned to Ethan, her eyes glowing faintly. "Thank you," she said simply. "You saved me and many others. I do not know how to repay you." Ethan shook his head. "No repayment is needed. I did what I thought was right. That is enough." For a moment the palace seemed silent. Two beings from different worlds had acted with courage, honesty, and understanding. They had faced danger together and survived. And in that shared experience, a bond had been strengthened beyond words. That night, as the city slept, Liara reflected on the events of the day. She realized something important. The human had changed her view of courage, trust, and even duty. She had always felt confined by expectations, by rules, and by tradition. But with Ethan, she saw that strength was not only in obedience and power, it was in honesty, care, and action. Ethan, too, thought about the day. He realized that humans could inspire even the most rigid and proud civilizations. Liara was strong, intelligent, and brave, but her trust in him had allowed them to succeed. He understood that courage was not measured by technology or numbers, but by heart and determination. The crisis had brought them closer, proving that humans could make a difference even in worlds far from their own. And Liara knew something she had not admitted before. She trusted Ethan completely. She felt safe with him, not because of force or duty, but because of who he was. As the moon rose over Zarathia, casting silver light across the palace, Liara whispered to herself, Perhaps I have been wrong about many things. Perhaps there is more to life than duty and expectation. Perhaps someone like him can show me another path." Ethan, looking at the stars from his cabin, thought the same. Two hearts, two minds, two worlds connected by courage, trust, and the belief that doing what is right could change everything. The council might never fully understand their bond, and the galaxy might still judge their choices, but Liara and Ethan did not care. Together they had faced danger, saved lives, and discovered a connection stronger than rules or tradition. The unyielding princess, who had refused every suitor, and the brave human, who acted with honesty and courage, had survived their first true test. Their trust in each other had grown into something undeniable, a bond that would shape the choices they made and the paths they followed. And though neither fully realized it yet, this bond was about to change the course of their lives, and perhaps the course of the galaxy itself. The sun rose over Zarathia, casting golden light on the palace spires. The city seemed calm again, but the events of the past days had left their mark. The palace buzzed with whispers, but Princess Liara walked with a quiet determination. She had faced danger, she had learned about courage, and most importantly, she had discovered trust in a human being, Ethan. Ethan was preparing for a report on his mission, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He could not stop thinking about Liara. She was intelligent, brave, and unlike anyone he had ever met. The events of the previous day, the fire, the escape, and the way they had worked together had left a deep impression on him. He realized that humans had the power to influence even the most rigid civilizations with courage, honesty, and compassion. The council was in session when Liara arrived. Her steps were steady, her posture regal. The councilors, still uneasy about the human ambassador, looked at her with a mixture of concern and anticipation. They knew she had spent much time with Ethan. Whispers spread quickly. Was the princess under the human's influence? Counselor Thalen spoke first, his voice tense. "Princess Liara, the council demands an explanation for your actions. Why have you spent so much time with a human? This is unprecedented." Liara met his gaze steadily. "I have spent time with him because he is honest, brave, and respectful. I have seen actions that show courage, not for duty or gain, but because it is right. That is worth recognition, is it not?" The council murmured, unsure how to respond. Liara continued, "I will not marry anyone forced upon me. I will choose my own path, and that choice now includes the human who has shown me bravery, respect, and understanding." The room fell silent. Counselors exchanged shocked glances. No princess had ever spoken so boldly. Yet Liara's voice held conviction. Ethan entered the chamber at Liara's request. The council's eyes widened at his presence. He was a human, unarmed, and yet there was something about his calm confidence that commanded respect. Princess Liara has been honest with me, Ethan said quietly. She has trusted me, and I have acted to protect her as any person would for someone they respect and care for. Liara's gaze met his. She felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of admiration, trust, and something she had never allowed herself to feel before. Before the council could respond, a new alarm sounded. A small faction of intruders, angry over the failed attempt to kidnap the princess, had returned to the palace outskirts. The palace guards rushed to respond, but Liara and Ethan exchanged a glance. They knew they could not stand idle. This is not the first time courage will be tested, Liara said quietly to Ethan. Are you ready? Ethan nodded. I am ready, together. They moved quickly, coordinating with the palace guards. Ethan's quick thinking and familiarity with the palace layout proved invaluable. He guided the guards, advised Liara, and helped organize defenses. Liara led her people with clarity and confidence, inspired by the humans' calm and practical approach. The intruders were clever, but Ethan's ingenuity and Liara's decisiveness proved stronger. Within hours, the threat was neutralized. The princess and the human had once again shown that courage, intelligence, and trust could overcome danger, even when numbers and technology seemed against them. When the situation was fully under control, Liara walked to the balcony overlooking the city. Ethan joined her, their hands brushing. She felt a connection stronger than any she had experienced with the alien lords who had come before. Ethan, she said softly, you have changed everything for me. Not by power or wealth, not by fear or duty, but by who you are. Ethan looked at her, his expression calm but full of feeling. I have only done what I hoped was right, but being with you, seeing your courage and wisdom, it has changed me as well. Liara's heart beat faster. She realized that her choice was clear. She had refused every alien suitor because she wanted honesty, respect, and courage. She had found all of that in Ethan. Her mind was certain, and yet her heart beat faster than she expected. Without thinking, she said the words that had been forming in her heart. Yes. Ethan blinked in surprise, then smiled softly. Yes? He asked, as if confirming her meaning. Liara nodded, her glowing eyes full of sincerity. Yes, I choose you not for duty, not for politics, not for tradition, but because of who you are. A quiet warmth spread through the balcony. In that moment, the princess who had refused countless suitors had spoken the unthinking truth. And the human who had acted with honesty, courage, and respect had earned her heart. The council, witnessing this, was silent. Some were shocked, others confused, but none could deny the bond that had formed between the two. It was not a bond of fear or duty, but of mutual respect, trust, and admiration. In the days that followed, Liara and Ethan continued to work together to strengthen the palace and the city. They shared knowledge, exchanged ideas, and prepared Zerathia for future challenges. The citizens began to notice the partnership between the princess and the human, and whispers of admiration spread. They saw courage, honesty, and respect in action, and it inspired many. Liara found herself smiling more often, laughing freely, and feeling joy she had never experienced before. Ethan's presence had opened her heart, showing her that true courage and love were not about power or control, but about honesty, bravery, and trust. Ethan, too, felt a deep sense of purpose. He realized that humans could make a difference across the galaxy, not just through technology or strength, but through heart, action, and courage. Liara had shown him the same truth, that leadership was not only about rule, but about care, understanding, and inspiration. One evening, as they stood together on the palace balcony, the stars shining above, Liara spoke quietly. I never thought I could feel this way about anyone. And yet, here you are, honest, brave, and true. I trust you, Ethan. Ethan took her hand gently. And I trust you, Liara. You are strong, wise, and brave. You inspire me to be better, to think beyond myself, and to act with courage. They stood in silence, looking at the city below and the stars above. Two worlds, two beings from opposite corners of the galaxy had come together not by duty or politics, but by trust, bravery, and heart. They had faced danger, challenges, and expectations, and in the end, they had found each other. Liara turned to Ethan, her eyes glowing softly. I said yes without thinking, but now I know it is the truest decision I have ever made. Ethan smiled, his hand still holding hers. And I will spend every day proving that your choice was the right one. Together we will face whatever comes with courage and honesty. In that moment, the palace seemed to glow with a new light. The people of Zarathia could see that something extraordinary had occurred, not through power, wealth, or fear, but through human courage and the princess's trust. It was a moment that would be remembered for generations. The galaxy, vast and full of civilizations, would soon learn that even the smallest and simplest of humans could inspire greatness, change hearts, and shape destinies. And on Zarathia, the unyielding princess and the brave human ambassador had discovered something even more powerful than politics or tradition. They had discovered connection, trust, and love. The unthinking yes was more than an impulse. It was the beginning of a partnership built on respect, courage, and honesty, a partnership that would change their lives and leave a lasting mark on their worlds. As night fell over the palace, Liara and Ethan stood together hand in hand looking at the stars. They did not know what challenges the future would bring, but they were certain of one thing. Together, they could face anything. The princess who had refused every suitor, and the human who acted with courage and honesty, had found each other. Their journey was just beginning, but it was a journey of heart, trust, and unshakable courage. And in that moment they knew that nothing, not duty, not expectation, not even the galaxy, could break the bond they had formed.